Welcome to Phdeasy! So we have a really exciting lineup today because it's not just the MFA students, but also some PhD students with their creative writing. Dawn, me. It's also my birthday.
Really what we should have said was welcome to Speakeasy /PhDeasy/Sam's birthday.
Yeah, this is all just like I took control. I was like, it's my birthday, I'm gonna do what I want to do for Speakeasy. And then it became what it is today. But like all other speakeasies, we're gonna pass around the sign-up sheet. I know I keep threatening you that we're about to run out of money. We might make it to like the second to last one, and then, so stay tuned. So we'll just pass that around.
In the meantime, yes, we do need proof that people are coming here. It's not just us drinking the booze.
And this is like a great turnout for us, which is awesome.
Yes.
Anything else to say?
Let's get this show on the road.
Okay. Uh-oh, Bluetooth problem.
This is why I wait until the music starts to read the bios. All right. So our first reader of the night is Amanda Awanjo. Amanda Awanjo is a charmer and is designing this introduction to be charming without calling attention to itself. It's going super well already. I mean, I didn't notice at all. I mean, I thought it was really subtle, so there's that. After coming to Speakeasy solidly for a semester and a half for the free beer and equally pleasurable opportunity to watch MFAs be fucking awesome. Yeah, we're fucking awesome, let's go. She is nervous but has had at least one glass of wine. Let's be honest, 2. To cope. Her time at a women's college has cemented her knowledge that goddess dances on the full moon can actually save lives. Her time at Rutgers assured her that she could make a career from studying black science fiction, and Pittsburgh has taught her that $1 beers at Bloomfield Bridge Tavern is the fastest way to success. She acknowledges that she's mentioned alcohol twice in this intro. No, she doesn't have a problem. What she does have is some work to share with y'all, ladies and gentlemen, Amanda Awanjo.
So excited. We're currently listening to a song from Rihanna's Auntie, amazing album, and you should check that out. So my first poem is called A Hole at the Bottom of My Stockings and is for my friend Advite. A belly button pull that floats my feet to the bumpy long road just traveled, to murmurs, jumping silence, and a cracked God I push my ashes into. I'd like to put something else back into. The bed that giggles just like the top layer, shaky pudding, pulls me to sit back to wall and hang my legs over all stocking covered except for the right middle toe. That's how I know you. So there under my feet, not coming in through all the holes, just the one, skimming and pressing and welcoming a small pink spot on a brown black leg, the door at the top of the stairs, the walk on the way to the door. I don't remember the smell, but I remember the whiskey. Whiskey I saw slide in your mouth. Whiskey I saw you trap with a gulp. Whiskey smooth through a beard. Whiskey close enough to lick. I had a plan to unravel brown black stocking until only brown was left, connected to small pink toes, connected to pink soles, all of it crisscrossed with 2 small weaving patterns, short black hair on end with static. I plan to rub them in the yellow covers on the bed that pulls my feet to always dangle off it. We'd hang my stockings out the window or leave them on your door. And I like weirdly dedicated all these things, which is probably really uncomfortable. But this is from my Mama Awanjo. So let's go. In late May 2013, my mother wore a purple leather suit and sweltering Macon heat. She described that suit for 14 minutes and 47 seconds last night. I saw the lavender stitching and the 80s inspired wide collar and the pleated pants just like Claire H. or Janet J. I don't remember her face from the day, but I remember how her jacket sweated under my arm and how in the pictures I looked as plastered to her as I was in reality, stuck to her through sweat and ceremony and hazy making sunlight. I hope I inherit that suit and the way it stretched and strained over you that day. I hope it looks as easy on me as it did on you. I hope it swallows and plasters like it covers me and sweat stuck me to you. I hope the lavender stitching will catch a man's eye and pull him eyelashes first like it pulled Papa to you. I hope I inherit it and walk in that leather, waxen form of you everywhere. Mama Awanjo. So this poem, going really quickly, I apologize. This poem does not have a title because I couldn't come up with one, but it is inspired by Kanye West. Very specifically, Coke on her black skin made it striped like a zebra. I call that jungle fever. Great line from Kanye West. When my knees knocked and my hair was laid with a frizzling hot comb and toxic white cream, hanging down my back in a greased sheen of little black girl pretty, I wondered how little white Danny could see me at all, with his eyes that looked bluer and crisper than any of my ma's good Sunday suits. If my white barrettes looked like sun reflected off water, if my brown skin looked muddy in a blue tinge, I wondered if little white Danny knew what I looked like, or if he saw me through blue kaleidoscope eyes that only ever threw my reflection to the side and turned melanin-soaked in playground sun to dirty blue tinged brown. If I charcoaled like baby Sambo on the road, or the jigaboo stamping down Georgia dirt, or the Bebe kid sitting on the city curb, or if I was pretty like my mama said, the special black girl kind. And here we are at the end. This poem is called Building. I want to tie you up in something I've made in the same way you insist on building me in that house. I want to build you into wet, paint-sticky structures and pull you together in new nooks. I want to understand why your voice sounded like violence that one year, that one summer. I want you to know why I didn't call you back and ask you why you wouldn't leave it all to well enough. I want to know when you're gonna stop building, stretching up the plastic and foam in the plywood frame, hoping for drywall, measuring doorways, mowing long dead grass, paying, foreclosing. Papa, stop building the house.
So our next reader, Moriah, survived the traffic and suburban sprawl of Northern Virginia in order to acquire her MFA in poetry from George Mason University in 2010. Then she survived living in a tiny town of only 5,000 people to work at a writing center as the writing center assistant director at Washington College, where she also taught composition, literature, and tutored pedagogy. Or pedagogy. Depends on how pretentious you want to be. She is now surviving the very gray days of Pittsburgh while working on a PhD in composition and rhetoric, where she studies all the same questions she pursues as a poet, but with a broader view toward all writing and writers. Truthfully, these experiences have all been exceptional. If she is cynical about anything, it's the demand that writers write about themselves in the third person. You can find her poems online at Diagram, The Offending Atom, Word for Word, Opon, and Fringe Magazine, among others, and notes on teaching and other such things at MoriahLPurdy.com. Moriah.
In writing, like I don't know how to do that, so I don't know. Thanks for having me. This is fun. I'm reading some poems from manuscript of Erasure. I'm erasing a book called A Land by Chiquita Hux, which She was a geologist and archaeologist and poet, and wrote this kind of poetic treatise of how landforms were formed in the British Isles, but it was before plate tectonics was the established theory of how mountains were formed, so she's kind of wrong. So the erasure kind of revises the kind of science a little bit, or addresses the error, and also kind of honors the poetics of her work. So these don't have titles. I'm just going to kind of try and pause between them and just read through. I use two sciences altogether unscientific. I use the image sought of an entity in which trilobites of nature deeply signify under. In the evolution, I see a land of its and as by change. I fall short of a wish to steal past emotion. I find I am beyond the bond. Detail is not perhaps of great importance for my purposes. Save me from my geological error, from my permission to use the content of maps. Plate A may be said to be exempt, while Plate B is closely allied with the text. Effigies lurking in alabaster so clearly felt confusion. It now remains for me to thank Chiquita Hawks. When I have a summer night, I like to go out and lie in a square, so that to lie is like exposing oneself. The land, after the first season, leaves tremendous sunless garden abandoned. It is impossible to fork the earth there. This hard ground presses my flesh against my bones. In my bed, I can sleep. Here, I can lie awake. My eyes stray or are netted by silhouettes, black lines, misshapen and stolid. Some forms in the unconscious strata shed innumerable lives, forms of memory in crude fragment on an invisible thread. I should wait to use words until images rustling through space rise into sight, but I feel them as secure under the protective dome of intuition. As for apparent material facts, I hope we come to know many, though we have allowed them to become our masters. Yes, I lie aware of awe, in spite of the body. I must go to bed before the isle emerges on the other side of night. I was born into a world which was not a plate, but a sphere, not to absorb some misquestioned errors. I am there, fell in it still. I grew simple lobe with an outer skin, hot and holy center. This sly ally of the compass needle made physics form patterns. The core is surface when the dross rises. Before, he was howling with genius, drawn between spiral shapes and polished specimens in a drawer. She rose to preeminence and disappeared. Certain tender inhabitants may cause trends once they at last develop a reasonable armor. Some entombed apples preserved the luster of every moment's burning. This gathering can be followed through browsing the agonizing web. So at this moment of time, I can feel the crystalline virus in the minds of men. I can feel all the particles of my own field, this outline of an individual. I am community of countless units. A stream of projections, pictures, poems, symphonies, fossils of the psyche. So we have become liked or desired as a mode. A variety of waves pass through a wall and the waves can be received by our minds. Me is a fiction in many forms, the temporary home that exists before the living person. Civilization must be a matrix. In place of the material universe, consciousness is melting us all down together again. What is certain is that the land rehearsed. In the surface, we have no memory. It is memoir, but many scientific devices, only indulgence. The story of the lovely ancient stuff was substitute for birdsong. I was certain this wildness in cities was a hunger that began to be conscious of too much light. And this is the last one. That shadowy shifting of ice, raged forms modified or disappeared. As men carried with them change, also shaped tools, evolving forms, contemporary preoccupation with technology has led to making distinguished form evolution. We are poorly equipped to see the purpose in earlier activities. It is, we know, from the things made rather than fragment found in our soil. any landmark, appears not as a mark on a continuous road, but a point turning incalculably.
So one of the things that really? Okay. So one of the things that we forgot to mention at the beginning is that there will be a brief intermission after this next reader, who I'm assuming you can all guess who it's going to be. Alright, so our last reader before the intermission is Sam Corfman. Sam is a newly minted Lambda Literary Fellow. A newly minted Lambda Literary Fellow in poetry who apparently also writes plays. He thought tickets to the Chicago run of the musical Hamilton went on sale yesterday and woke up early to strategize with his brother. Tickets are not yet on sale. But when they are, the twins will be ready. A chapbook manuscript called In Opaque Flower Digging is slowly making its way into the world, with finalist nods from Omnidon and Slope Edition's chapbook contests, and excerpts in or soon in Deluge, 1913, A Journal of Forms, Omniverse, and in print, in Prelude. 2, 4, 13 is... why is it right underneath your biography?
That was my note.
Okay. I'm so confused right now, but one thing that will make everything less confusing is turning it over to Sam Corfman.
So the thing that's at the end of the bio, which was like my note, was I thought I was gonna forget the title to like the sequence of plays that I'm working on, which is 2, 4, 13 is an unlucky number. And so I wrote it when I was putting all the bios together, and then Malcolm, it's not actually part of the bio. But if I could have Susanna and Kumi and Stephanie come up. So I'm working on a play thing this semester. And so we're gonna read the first 4 pages of a play called Aquarium. But it's really a poem, but kind of a play maybe. And the idea behind the scene or the play is that I was thinking about what happens if the stage directions was like a character, and then it sort of spiraled from there. So the only I'm going to read stage directions. We're just going to read it. We're not going to act it, or we will act with our voices. Yeah. So the only character that doesn't get introduced is stage directions. Who starts? So this is Aquarium. I'm very excited. A flock of birds flying back and forth, indistinct, maybe insects, maybe debris tossed by the wind. 4 voices, a 3-piece suit. I'll speak all these directions aloud. We are in this theater, which is slightly chilly to my taste, but then I can't taste. Does that mean I can't smell either? Investigators are working on it. Wens suddenly enters.
I once read a story about a man who tried to throw away his sadness into a lake maybe, but found that his sadness was his hands and that he couldn't throw those away. The kind of throwing he imagined needed hands to do the throwing.
Repression, who is trying not to say, enters.
I once was a man who tried to be sad but found it difficult. I was once a woman who had more success. An everyday malaise, a balloon without the air. I would go to the French patisserie down the street and sit there thinking, is this sadness? And then later, is this?
Swims away, who has a past, enters, and brings with her a corded telephone, its wires trailing, as well as a swimming pool, which we are all sitting at the bottom of, surrounded by water. She also has a quill behind her ear like a pen or a feather decoration, and an ink pot in her pocket, hidden now, that we'll see later. I will say center stage, and the others will move around me. No one will leave the stage. We are not wet. Sporadically, the water freezes, but just as now, we move as we will, slowly but constantly, perhaps randomly. The shapes moving across the stage, us, across our faces, become more recognizable as fish for the moment.
Every time I try and fly away, I end up here in the bath, as if I can be clean. The doctor says there are only 3 parts of the body that need soap, and that water clears away other dirt. I never believe doctors. I never wrinkle. The osmosis of it all is confusing. Either water can clean the oil from my skin that makes me waterproof, and so clean the oily parts of me, or it cannot. Soap is poisonous, but the dart frog is too, and he is my friend. I wonder where he's gotten to.
Who's the attractive man here?
I always wanted a pet, but when I was growing up, my mother had allergies. I named my hamster Emma, but my mother swears we were told the hamster was male. Maybe she was right, and I named Emma anyway, but in the night, Emma gave birth to 6 baby hamsters, and in, fear, a revelation, broke out of the cage and disappeared, leaving her babies to die. We buried them next to the snowdrops. Perhaps the store lied to us, perhaps they didn't, and I wanted everything to be female, and it was the one wish I made that came true. I have never felt particularly attached to pets since then, although I have lived with them. This, I have been told, makes me cruel. I hope my little dart returns soon. It is getting cold.
That wasn't the last time I cried, but I did cry. The last time I cried, I saw a man see his own fate in a ripped linen curtain. We had curtains like that in the house I grew up in, where I got in trouble for jumping, for pulling them.
Have you chopped down a tree before? I have or I haven't.
I don't think it's me.
Have you stolen a cigarette or only asked to borrow one? Have you shared one as a burn? I lit a candle and it didn't melt to its edges, only burnt a small column in the middle, slightly off-center. It smelled like sandalwood and something else, like the canopy of the woods in Michigan in winter, if woods even have a canopy. Maybe only jungles do, which have never had winter, but might one day.
Wen suddenly lights a candle, but immediately blows it out. After waving away the smoke, he does it again. Did you forget we're underwater? Wen suddenly did, but let's not remind him. He continues lighting and blowing out the candle. Swims away, begins to glow in Technicolor royal blue and green with a yellow stripe.
Oh, look, my dart's returned, brought with him a 3-second slide to unconsciousness.
Swims away, passes out. Spotlight on Repression, who has moved downstage left. The reprise of I'm Not That Girl from the musical Wicked plays, and Repression lip syncs to it. I'd say tragically, but the lights are camped up, and the reviews were more concerned with the composer's choice to end it on a low note, as opposed to a high belt.
He loves her so. I'm not that girl.
Sometimes they call me camped up, but only rarely.
Is there a story here? I hope not. It takes too much out of me. Isn't it easier to sit with a sequence of things that you don't need to be invested in? Swims away, Repression, and when suddenly, all look at me. Point taken. You'll be invested anyway. After all, a doll's house means something, like the one in front of Repression right now. Repression had dolls, but no doll houses.
I didn't want one. I lived in a house, and we lived in a house together. It was the forms I wanted.
Let's go on vacation. All I want is a beach, even though all of our bodies will be exposed.
Everyone on stage lifts up their shirts to expose their stomachs, holds them for a moment, and then takes their shirts off.
Sometimes I think about putting all of the money into a beach house, or a row of them, and we could all live there and walk into ocean whenever we wanted. We wouldn't be underwater all the time, but could watch the water instead, and go into it when we wanted to, and choose how far up our bodies we wanted it to reach. But of course, the waves, there's always the chance of an undertow. Still, a chance seems better than a certainty, which is where I am now.
It seems when suddenly remembered to look around. Do you see how Repression keeps trying to talk, or talks but doesn't say much? This is new for him. He spent most of his time watching very carefully and failing to pretend. Trying to say is better than that, I think, even though we don't know what he's saying yet. In trying to say it is possible each try will be different.
I can only sleep by wrapping myself tightly in my blankets. One time I couldn't sleep at all, but mostly I sleep well. Mostly I don't remember my dreams, if I dream. The time I couldn't sleep at all, I was worried about having to talk to someone else. I was worried I lived outside of myself, in a space where other people could address me and I would have to respond.
Thank you. Change of hats. Intermission. Welcome back. So we have 3 more readers. I just realized over our intermission that because the past couple of speakeasies have been on the short side, this is like 2 speakeasies for the price of 1, which is so exciting. Everybody loves a good deal. Maybe that's just me. Alright, I think otherwise we're just gonna get started.
Yeah, I'll get out of the way.
Never in the way.
Sometimes.
So let's see if the phone will do the thing it's supposed to do. Error loading song. What does that mean? Time out. Someone who does know jokes, like now would be a great time. So Gabrille Rajerison hasn't had her poems read yet, and so can't answer any inquiries concerning biography. When she said that to me, she said, "You feel me?" in all caps.
Fascinating transition.
Damn it! I didn't want to start talking over that. Okay, so I have a few poems to read. Yeah, so I'll start. I have this slight anxiety because right before this, I signed the waiver for my, to allow you guys to see my face or whatever. And lately I've been getting these emails from academia.edu that's someone just searched you on Google. And now I'm really scared that I'm just gonna get dozens of them. Okay, so this first one is from a series that I was working on called Co-Conspirators, and it was trying to think through celebrities. So this one is Co-Conspirators, Meditation for Fiona Apple. We're killing off the men 2 by 2. Keeping bones as metaphors and bones as bones. Collarbone, hip bone, skull, femur under little fur, lots of lace, black, mouth and shiny. Now I choose whether or not I have a face. I can be as scared as a little girl. Breathe slow. I can be as sexy as a little girl. Come close. No pictures of me between puberty and college. Years before it happened, I knew it was gonna. Rage keeps me trim. Gift from my daddy. Pink Barbie Jeep, all petals. I will step on any scale. Need to stay divisible by 5. 2 men held me down, so 3 parts of me gone missing. Cut out meat, then dairy. Never cared much for candy. Wasting beauty, ooh, I still believe in that. Forgiveness is arbitrary, but I can dress for anything. I wanted to kill so many people, Fiona. I'm trying to remember. Imagine an N, then pinker. Another thing I'll say is I realized while trying to choose the poems that I was going to do that I'm really obsessed with mouths and insides and outsides. I don't know what that means. Okay, so this one doesn't have a title so far. The voice is only so wide. We all agree I've stopped feeling. Underneath my tongue is another little mouth saying things like, "Don't fear me, baby. I'm too good looking." Can a face be a feeling? Touch mine and see. I used to talk to walls when teachers moved my chair away from other people who I also talked to. I know something about being an object. Inside each of us is a sticker that says root or rot, and which is the typo no one knows. But when I was born, they told my dad I was a boy because I was in a blue cap. And can you believe that when they told my dad I was a girl, he was just as happy and ran back to the payphone crying and counting quarters. This one does have to be. It's called It Wasn't God.
I still like the word "oh" very much. When I was a kid, I got called into the principal's office for fucking around and checking off a different race every year. It was difficult to explore eroticism in Catholic school. My nipples got hard during the Pledge of Allegiance. Before I understood what deja vu was, I thought God was sending me prophetic dreams. Based on my viewing history, I get recommended things like Satan fetish porn. I don't really mind being an object. I should have said so before. I've seen dogs with their leashes leaping around, sentient but not free, free but not free, and I wanted to offer my hand, not in solidarity, but free to live. And so this is, I'm gonna read something that I feel kind of bad. It's not drafted at all, it hasn't reached an ending or even a middle point. But I kind of just need to hear it out loud and I need the pressure of your faces. So I'm gonna read, I don't know if this is the epigraph or if it's just the genesis of it that I've just been thinking a lot about. And it's weird because it's actually longer than what I'm gonna read. Okay, but I've been thinking a lot about Afro-pessimism, which is a totally depleting theory. It makes me want to cry every time I read it. And so I've been reading Frank B. Wilderson's memoir Incognito, and so this is from him. I'm nothing, Naima, and you are nothing. The unspeakable answer to your question within your question. This is why I could not, would not answer your question that night. Would I ever be with a black woman again? It was earnest, not accusatory, I know. And nothing terrifies me more than such a question asked in earnest. It is a question that goes to the heart of desire, to the heart of our black capacity to desire. But if we take out the nouns that you used, nouns of habit that get us through the day, your question to me would sound something like this. Would nothing ever be with nothing again? Obedience. The white men who fuck me tell me they don't even like white girls. I am a divestment. Blackness is a renewable relationship. Resource me. First the body, then the blood. What is formed to a black dot? My mouth only approaches a circle. You can get almost nothing out. The inside of nothing is nothing. This is how anything else gets inside. Yes, beloved. Yes, wretched. Yes, earthbound earth. No is an affirmation. I am nothing only when I take up space. I am space regardless. And that's all I've got. Thank you.
We're having lots of Bluetooth problems today. There we go.
All right, with all the technology problems we're having, it's a good thing that the last bio and this bio have been short bios. So our next reader, our final student reader, is Kyle Winkler. Kyle is a third-year composition PhD. He has an MFA in fiction from Washington University in St. Louis. He lives in Wilkinsburg with his wife, Katie. He finds the search for a literary agent tiresome as all get out. Don't we all? Ladies and gentlemen, Kyle Winkler.
You didn't have to doctor that up at all. You asked for plain ones, so I tried to give you something really boring. So fiction readers have a different protocol than poets, I think, because we have to read something that is self-contained, which is difficult. So I bypassed two shorts for a excerpt from a new book that I'm writing. So I hopefully it will be self-contained in its own way. It's called Aristotle Was Wrong. And here's the epigraph so far. It's from Plato's Republic. We must begin then, it seems, by censorship over our story makers. And what they do well we must pass, and what not, reject. But most of the stories they now tell, we must reject. 1. The library made moisture into hate. And as far as the contemplative life goes, scholars cannot handle damp. Library patrons limped along like biblical B-sides and were heard to ask things like, "Excuse me, moisture?" "What?" asked the passing man. "I said, excuse me, mister." Babies brought in from the heat, low slung in those motherly biceps, presented themselves as versions of boiled vegetables. Such a disgrace to infancy. Someone lamented a return to parasols. A dozing codger farted in unconscious exhaustion. Nowhere on the shelves did relief sit. Books don't breathe, or they do, but we haven't figured out how. We must remember air conditioning represents luxury in the budgets of rural townships, although this was one of those God-forsaken towns. He then, who owns a cellar door, cools the soul of dry goods. It was unseasonably October. 2. Everything wrong in the world was wrong with books, Sylvia said. No one heard her alone in the back, surrounded by incoming items. She beeped each piece with a corded laser gun. Children's ABCDaries beeped. Exercise videos beeped. Chopin's nocturnes beeped. Political thrillers, Georgian romances, contemporary pastorals, simmering Amish steamers, all beeped, all brought home, all carefully examined as a jeweler the jewel. Everything wrong in the world was wrong with books. Their spines were broken and needed taped or glued, or restitched or altogether rebound. Their pages crimped and curled. They were, ostensibly, just plants repackaged into another form, books. And so it made sense to say that what was wrong with the world was wrong with books. The assistant head librarian edged his nose over the cubicle wall and asked if Sylvia would care for a diet soda. Albert's glasses belonged, spiritually so, on an older, deceased laboratory director, his nose to a long dead face of a Duke of Habsburg. In any case, Sylvia could only perceive portraiture when she saw him. "Tell me something about Aristotle," she said. "Checking in materials is killing my soul." Dead face, he stepped aside the wall and cleared his throat. Albert fit in the library the way skis fit into a garden shed. He paused. Asking Albert about Aristotle embarrassed his knowledge. Sylvia, forgetful of personal indiscretion, apologized. "Please, please, no, no, no," he said. He was waving away discursive traffic. "What happened again?" She's asking for some sort of a old story that had happened in the library. Some years ago, a Huggish woman put herself forward as claimant to all things Albert, which meant researching the weather of Denmark, which meant protecting the sanctity of the reference desk. That is, reference librarians have to query or field a lot of queries from weird people all the time. I don't know if anybody's worked in the library. Happens. So this woman, this human flytrap, Dina, she petted Albert's hand and pursued his personal history. We're talking a person who perpetually appeared cheery, outfitted in a Macintosh. Sun, moon, wind, rain, plague. When Dina discovered he, Albert, had written a senior thesis decades ago on Aristotle, some conclusive boulder rolled to the back of her mind. Nothing else should be spoken of but Aristotle. She was so esoteric about her crush that she strutted in once with a t-shirt for Albert that read, "More Macedonian Metaphysics!" exclamation point. Sylvia stopped the story. "Huh?" Albert said that Aristotle was Macedonian, really. Dina had made this insane shirt for him. She'd scrawled on a t-shirt with a Sharpie. "Aw," Sylvia said, "I want that. I want intelligent stalkers." Albert denied this. Stalkers have wretched needs. They're petulant like rare flowers. In fact, Dina's undiluted affection for his Albertness forced him to proclaim that Aristotle was wrong. Wrong about it all. Well, this set Dina off. She ended her infatuation right then and there. She declared Albert a prophet of doom, a troll, subhuman, an incomparable and reckless minotaur in the labyrinth of sorrow that was the public library. Sylvia couldn't help it. "Okay, but was Aristotle wrong?" she asked. Albert configured. He was thoughtful, and this was okay to indulge, Sylvia thought, wherein most people considered it punishingly autistic. Wrong? Yes, but in ways we'll never be right. 3. The head librarian, Dolores, used to iron, back into satisfying form, these huge pages of encyclopedias right on her desk. The iron had an old fabric electrical cord, clearly a fire hazard. She was brutally pragmatic, which meant cutting out middle men, middle women, middle children. Most middle people were vermin to Dolores. Despite this, or because of this, most days she funneled Sylvia into her office because the older woman liked to speak out loud and Sylvia liked to listen inside. Dolores moved files around on her computer and Sylvia sat on the nog-high couch as if waiting outside the principal's office. Diet soda, Dolores offered. I don't know why I write about diet soda so much. It just happens to me. No, I prefer lots of sugar, Sylvia said. Sylvia smiled. Dolores said it would rot the teeth. I plan on getting new ones, Sylvia said. Who has money for that? I quit college, she replied. My mother had all her own teeth till the end. Dentures at 40 for me, Sylvia said. Why not 30? Make it 30. Poverty becomes me, Sylvia said. Now Dolores smiled. Then she didn't. Sylvia, why do you want to keep working for us? Because I'm so bright? A fruitful future? Maybe, but fruit rots, dear, like teeth, from sugar. Dentists love rot. They need it. Albert walked in with 2 diet sodas anyway. It was joked, or hesitatingly declaimed, that Albert could read Dolores' mind, though not the other way around. Dolores had often admitted she never knew what Albert thought or could be capable of thinking. No one moved for the diet sodas, so they sat sweating on the desk's corner. Tell me more, Dolores said. About? Sylvia asked. The state of the contemporary library, the monument to supposed free learning, free to all, guaranteed to none. We keep cataloging, but what changes? We're a secular monastery in the wasteland of remembrance. What happened to forgetting? How is digital storage an affront to Darwinian evolutionary theory? Does it matter? It doesn't matter. Species change because there's no space for all of them. Facts have all the space in the world, or not facts, but pure information. Information has individual rooms with daybeds. She picked her teeth with a pen cap. There's no culling here. Sylvia, sweetie, if I could, I'd appoint you official culler, book bleeder, book letter. Imagine, pith helmet, fake wooden machete. We'd make a spectacle of it and get patrons involved. Reality television would revert back to reality. No cameras involved, no middlemen. Sounds sweaty, she said. Nothing we're not already used to, Dolores said. I have something particular for you. A mission, Sylvia said. A charge, Dolores replied. I'm game. Our stacks are melting. Our books are dying. The head librarian did not care to elaborate. Dolores, Sylvia asked, are you married? Have you heard the word deliquesce? Dolores asked. It's when a solid becomes a liquid. Can you imagine the books as beings that are rotting on the shelves? Thank you.
So I'm just gonna like wait for so our last reader, I have a lot that I could just sort of like say about how wonderful I think Dawn is, but I'm gonna read her bio because it sort of says it's like a very impressive bio. I'm just gonna like tell you what a great creative mind we are in the presence of. So Dawn Lundy Martin, essayist, poet, and conceptual artist, is author of 3 books of poems, including most recently, Life in a Box is a Pretty Life, and 3 chapbooks. She is currently at work on Good Stock, forthcoming from Coffee House Press, and a hybrid memoir, a tiny bit of which appears as the essay The Long Road to Angela Davis's Library in The New Yorker in December 2014. Martin is also a co-founder of the Black Took Collective, an experimental performance art/poetry group of 3 who came to my undergrad when I was an undergrad, and I ran into my friend right before it and was like, want to come to a poetry reading? And then we went to this Black Took Collective performance, and my friend was like, what are we? And I was like, well, it was a little different maybe than a normal poetry reading. Fun fact. And also a member of How Do You Say Yam in African, the global artist collective that withdrew from the 2014 Whitney Biennial to protest the museum's racially biased curatorial practices. She is our Associate Professor of English here at the University of Pittsburgh.
I didn't know that the,
Oh, hi, Corey. I didn't see you in the back.
I didn't know that the bios were supposed to be funny. Funny. I mean, it was an option, but I didn't know that I should do that. So I'm just going to read actually from two parts of my new book. And the first part I'm reading mostly because it's a correction. I had a long piece published in Bomb magazine a couple months ago, and they screwed it up completely because it's actually kind of like separate pieces, and they forgot to demarcate like that this is happening, and so it just appears as this essay, and so now I just go around, obsessively correcting their mistake, like, in OCD way. So the title or heading or whatever is We Believe in Regarding the Nature of Being, and then I'll pause between each piece. The rinse. Because a bracket bent in V toward sun, whereas legitimacy of this witnessing, Lacan's first core loss, and the recognition of oneself. My head into lamb's breath, black breath could be a noticing of marking or slashing. How am I going to be your dog if you keep asking me questions? I could just crawl around with my tongue hanging out. Would you like that? In kindergarten, a girl called me a smell of doctoring, witch hazel on a girl's face. All souls are lost. I know this. If I crawled on the floor, I might feel like home. Grate upon jagged grate. Can you feel that? As if we're lungstone when we say breathing or air. Winter. To trace a life is to trace nothing at all but accumulation of events which themselves are not things. Mother, where are you? What questions burn the edges of your heart? I see the wrought iron cage you've spent so many years carving. Careful attention to one's own insignificance in God's hands. God's little bird, pale day, crest over, walk into leaves, mother in her house of leaks. Roof tumble. In haze of light, shackle light, what in the world is this missing? What exists in the deep ways of broken things? Having been always before and after everything, without limits of time, as if in existence without attachment, untethered from happenings rooted in temporality. The body is made of many arches and windows. Enter this structure, the entrances to the many houses of God. And yet, each morning a fire heart grief in the body coming out of sleep. The listening to the smoke as it fills and weeps inside the chest, choking strength out, hands weighted, dangling. We wonder where else it lives before it fills the body up. We assume it comes inside through the hole that promises invasion. This layering of forms pushes the body toward abstraction. We have stolen madness from the white people. An Asian white man calls us a crazy bitch in a text, but we have long done been free. Coffee is brought to our body bedside on a silver tray. We are unrepresentable. We sip into the grief mouth. They said there are rules to attend to in washing and wearing of the jumpsuit, which is the color of the walls in my childhood room. The owl in our mouths cannot say oust or out. The crying elephant, the crying elephant. The boy says, I was completely depleted of vitamin D and drank Purell hand sanitizer and instant Kool-Aid just to feel something. The way of Athena, her wolves at her feet. You roll over, catch your persistent breath, the minutia of a hello. The old people don't like it, but we like it because we live there as ourselves, enacting imprint selfhood. To record our worst things, to heave into a hole too small for a body. How the promise is destroyed. God is dead, life goes on. All the small things like dust, the big things like starving. I'm going to tell you now the smallest flower. It's called Wolfia globosa, or watermeal, and it's green. It floats on the water in clusters. You've seen it. But if you have a problem looking at certain textures, you might get sick looking up close. It's edible, especially in Asia. So I have this, part of this new project is to rewrite this experimental opera that I wrote for How Do You Say Yam in African. So I'm rewriting it. So it was originally, they were like, write a libretto, and then I wrote some poems. And then they were, and so now I'm like, they're like, oh, write a book of poems. And I'm like, how do I make this libretto that is actual poems into other poems? So this is my the new project. And actually, I was doing a reading at St. Mark's Church in New York, and I read like the drafts, and then I read like the first drafts, and then like the rewrite. But given our time situation here, I'm just going to read the rewrite, which will be out actually in Poetry Magazine next month. It's called Our Wandering, and it has an italicized moment at the front end, which is not actually a quote, it's just someone talking. Our wandering. If they would only beat us, if they would only beat or shoot me, but they wanted soul substance to harbor that like that, so I could never move from this place. So they reach cracked hands inside and hold it for raking. We in a ship rustle, the way and ramble and camaraderie brown hand of whose mother makes its smooth noise over my mouth. The burden of saying something, a head nodding, and I want to be inside of your knowing. Who laid their head on the disappeared's pillow? 1 minute a person licks your ear, the next you cannot see your own white breath. We gotta head on over to the party way out in Bushwick because we're lost and our flesh is on fire. There's a man walking behind us and growing. This is what I tell him. I am not a black in anyone's black. I'm not a black in a black body. I will not kowtow to your opposites. I am not a boy in anyone's body. How the world blisters you. How hunger left you statued. One falls past the lip of some black unknown where they say time ends. We got us a sugar mouth, a bit feeding, walk in circles and circular rooms built so precisely for our shapes. Hold the figure that is the body that is, of course, me. I stroke the feather that feeds me, that lines my cage floor with minor luxuries. I say mama into its wanting, sugary mouth. What is the difference between ash and coal, between dark and darkened, between love and addiction on decal at 2 a.m., and I fall drunk from a ruinous taxi, already ruined from before. The absent weight screams into your breath, you are no good. the space between I and it, lolling. The Abibio man was not born in his cowboy hat. Even his throat must ache like tired teeth. Look at what I'm holding. Not desire, but infinite multiplicity, the mouth of existence. To sing the blue song of longing, its webbed feet along jungle floor. What of our mechanical arm, our off melody, purpose in the gathering? I know, dear self. It rains and we think God or we think universe. I say portent across the wind. When wind is wrought, whole song fallen from its lips, some black unknown where they say time is. What speech into hard God breath, just as night part is godless. What of a silver cube in the mouth? This is our wandering. Thank you.